Hello and welcome to the morning after show presented by Underdog Fantasy Sports. My name is Joshua Reimer, and I'm joined by none other than Jared Block, who's over on my right. Jared, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm tired.
We're both tired, man.
Officially, I have officially hit old man status. My baby sister turned 18 last night, and
Nice.
I, yeah. That's so just backstory. That's been a day that like my friends and I have always made fun of. Back when we were in high school, because my sister was I don't know like six or younger, like 5 or 6, and she'd always be around like early band practice days of like we had to stop because she had to go to bed or whatever the case was there, or she'd always be the one that had the headphones on during shows or something like that. So it's been like a journey and adventure, and we have always said, oh, like 2022 we'll all be 30, and then she'll be 18, and here we are
Here we
today.
are.
So
Yeah.
we're all old now. So yeah, it was crazy. Last night was very busy for myself, but I'm glad that we had a great night in MLB. I
Yeah.
was just gonna tell you that I had no idea that the draft was on Thursday.
The
So
draft. No, it is
is it next?
not.
Is it next week? Next Thursday? It might be next Thursday.
It is not. Man, I will be
Well,
floored.
we're in a 10-day countdown. We're in 10-day countdown right now.
Let's go look here real quick because I had no clue that the draft was this close. Okay, it's next Thursday.
Yep.
Thank goodness for my
But
dynasty leagues
still,
because I could have been shitting myself a little bit there, Jared. But next
we're
Thursday,
within 10 days now.
yeah, I need to ramp up my research for my rookie picks. I need to get going on that. That should definitely be interesting. Yeah, so it's funny. I'm in a very similar boat to where you are with the Freddie in the chat saying 9 days. I'm in a very similar boat to where you are because I also have a little sister and she was around the same. She was around 6 when I was in high school and she's turning 10 in May 8th. She was born on Mother's Day, the year that she was born. But she's turning 10 on May 8th, and it's just like, holy crap, where did the 10 years go? But it's gonna be the same thing for me when she turns 18. I'll be 30, and I'll be kind of looking back and being like, wow, I'll feel like old man status as well. But not quite yet. Life of Goosty says 9 inning double headers are back. They certainly are. We get the Nats and the Diamondbacks going for 9 inning double headers today. 18 innings of baseballs for those two teams. That'll be a lot of fun. Little Italy says, good morning, fellas. And shout out to Bacon23, subbing at tier one. And they've subbed for 19 months. We talked about this, I think, yesterday, Jared, but like the 19-month streak, that's pretty insane. That's a lot of months. Talk about feeling like an old man. That makes me feel kind of old right there.
Right. Yeah, it was I think it's probably like I don't know, we didn't start it seriously probably until like July or August of 2020. So it's
Mm-hmm.
right around there.
No.
It's crazy. Anyway, yeah, I mean we're definitely like solely invested in baseball right now, which is why I can't follow anything with the USFL, I can't follow anything
Yeah.
with apparently the XFL is trying to undermine the USFL's thing that went on live TV yesterday with The Rock, and now we have the NFL draft stuff happening next week. Oh, so I got this because I got like a my buddies are just obsessed with this Packers draft because it means everything to them, and I
Uh
don't care. I don't care what they were
huh.
the day before.
Yeah.
So so it's just like they keep texting me all this stuff and like how it is. I'm sure some people in the chat know how it is too when they just have a lot of friends that they like sports and they know a lot about sports, but then they're like, you know more than I do. Let's just grind you for 40 text messages. And that's what I got during the MLB podcast yesterday. So
That's
uh,
funny.
yeah, so that happens like all the time on a weekly basis. But
Uh
yeah, they
huh.
were just like, uh, they basically were just like, there's a restaurant, a wing spot next to my house because I live by the all the restaurants for the brewery games, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Jared will host next week for the draft," but they didn't say next week at first, so I thought that it was this Thursday, and I was like, "Oh
Gotcha.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I guess we'll just
totally.
do it."
Yeah,
I was
that's
like, "Oh cool, the Thursday MLB slate locks early. That's nice." Because
there
I
you
was
go.
gonna tell you, and I think it's next Thursday as well. They
It
both lock
is.
early,
It
so
is.
that was I was like, I was I forgot to tell you just because our podcast went late, but then I was like, "Oh, they just moved. The day is messed up." Not because of the sites, it's because the actual NFL draft just moved all the baseball games that day.
Nope.
So, I,
You would have
that would be it.
thought, but maybe that's the case for next Thursday. It's not the case for this Thursday. It's
Enough
certainly
rambling for our morning. I
yeah,
have
enough for him.
stuff to talk
Yeah, I
about.
think we could get to some sports and actually start talking about some things that went on last night, including the NBA playoffs, which were certainly an interesting one. Let's start out with the first game. Raptors faced off against 76ers. 76ers Raptors came out looking good. You know, you played that whole first quarter, and this team looks really solid. Fred Van Vliet was on fire to start out the game. But 76ers, I mean, they really ran away with it in that second quarter, and then you look at what they did in that third quarter, and it was pretty much toast coming into the fourth. You know, Raptors came with a little bit of a comeback, but it felt more just like the 76ers were kind of checked out of that one. 76ers now take a 2-0 lead against the Raptors. Man, I don't know what to think about this because like I talked about yesterday when we talked about the weekend of games, I really expected this Raptors team to stick around and I really expected this Raptors team to be a team that could really give the 76ers a lot of heat and really end up potentially upsetting them in this first round. And I mean, they could do it, but it's going to be very difficult to do so. And you know, obviously they head back to Toronto now, but I still don't think that saves them at the end of the day.
I don't think so either. I'm just hoping at this point that they can save all of our takes. And I think every sports analyst had the same take of the Raptors potentially winning this series. So
Hmm.
it has not come to fruition whatsoever. They were down by almost 30 at one point in the third quarter, and they ended up storming back a little bit, but that's only because, they were up by, or they were down by so much. So I just think that the lack of depth on the Raptors side has been their Achilles heel just for the entire season. I mean, they've done just fine, and they've been able to mitigate injury. And they've had several. Each one of their starters has missed some time, so it wasn't surprising to see all that happen. But it is unfortunate that it would happen right now, where Scotty Barnes leaves. He's probably not going to play the rest of the series, and Gary Trent Jr. tried to give it a go, but that's exactly he did exactly what I said was going to happen. He was going to play 10 minutes and he was going to throw up on the court. And then
Yeah.
he was going to. That's exactly what I said to you before the game
Uh
started,
huh.
and that's pretty much what happened. Didn't provide anything. Chris Boucher came in with the late bench stuff, getting 30 minutes there, but they just don't have guys on the bench that can step up and play against the Sixers team. I guess the more impressive thing is that what happened with like how is James Harden okay with taking a back seat to Tyrese Maxey right now?
I have no clue. Well, I'm assuming it's just like they have Fred Van Vliet on James Harden, and it kind of just makes the most sense to let Maxi take the ball if FEV is going to be there because FEV is one of those elite defenders, right? Like FEV is one of the best defenders in the league, and Tyrese gets who does Tyrese get? I mean, Tyrese gets Gary Trent for 10 minutes, I guess. But outside of those 10 minutes, gets a Malachi Flynn defense, gets a maybe OG defense, but probably not. Like I think he's okay with taking the back seat because he kind of has to in this scenario. And you know, Tyrese has shown that he can take that second role there. Talk about two amazing games from him. Last night he had 20. He almost had a triple double, man. Like 23 points, 8 assists, 9 rebounds. Looked really good. Giannis Perez says Harden ain't the same since the hammy injury. He can't blow past anyone, especially elite defenders. Yeah, I agree with that. Harden is very much of an outside presence now. You don't see him inside the paint much like you used to.
Sure. He might not have to either, just given the fact that I don't think he ever played with a big man of that stature. I don't think so. Capella was something back in the day, but I don't think that he necessarily needs to drive as hard anymore. Maybe he realized that, like in the early part of the season, we had said, like he's washed, he can't get to the free throw line, yada yada, all this stuff. And the same thing happened, and then he started to figure it out. Maybe he realized that like I can't physically do that anymore, and that's kind of a weird thing to see from him. But
No.
I'm still interested to see how they react. Nah, this isn't going to change everything. Maybe this changes one game, but he's not really playing many minutes right now. So Matisse Thybulle is not eligible to play the next two games in Toronto. I don't think that changes much, given that he's played like less than 30 minutes overall in this series. I guess we'll see how it goes. They are running. The Sixers are actually running the Raptors strategy of running five guys more than 35 minutes. I guess we'll see how long they are able to do that for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've kind of. I don't think Danny Green will be the starter for the whole entire playoffs. I feel like they intentionally did this with Matisse, kind of just to let the team be there without Matisse Thybulle, to not rely on that defense, and to kind of get prepared for what is going to happen in Toronto, where you're not going to have him. And smart game plan by Doc Rivers, because clearly having Danny Green on the floor has helped them a lot, and they've been really successful these past two games. Let's talk about game two and talk about the team that seems like everyone has written off, but ended up getting a monstrous victory last night with the Mavericks facing off against the Jazz. Mavericks win 110 to 104. Jalen Brunson, a 41-point game. Who would have thunk that Jalen Brunson would have 41 points in the playoffs? But man, the guy looked like a stud last night, regardless of whoever they threw on him, because they gave him Mike Conley at points, they gave him Donovan Mitchell at points, they gave him Royce O'Neal at points, and the guy just could not stop scoring. He looked great out there. And, just a prototypical Jazz loss, getting outscored in the fourth quarter by 10 or more points is almost a given whenever you see the Jazz lose, because this team is just like the worst fourth quarter team in the whole entire playoffs,
Yes, they
honestly.
are. Yeah, they definitely are, and they did it again.
Yeah.
So there was even a point where I was like, there's a chance that Utah might run away with this. We'll see. That was in the first half, and that did not come to fruition in the second half. So I don't know what to do with this Jazz team. I'm really interested to see how Dallas responds, and they did respond in game two off of I don't know, man. Like again, what a weird call. I don't know whose call that was to have Luca play, but they should be fired. And if that's Jason Kidd, then so be it. So, uh, if Luca plays, this is a 2-0 series heading into Utah, and potentially, I mean, Dallas might not even have to rush him back at this point. Like, what do you do now?
I think you give him another game, most likely. I mean, depending on how he's feeling on when
Wait
is
till
this.
game four, see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know when this next game is. It's probably Thursday or Friday, but you give him game three off and see how he feels in game four, and go from there. I don't feel like you really need to rush him back, like you said. If you can at least know that this Mavericks team can contend with the Jazz. I feel like you're fine just kind of letting him get fully healthy. You don't want to run into problems in later rounds, because I guarantee you this Mavericks team will not end up beating whoever you face off in the next round, whether that be the Suns or the Warriors. So I don't know. I think you give him another game at the end of the day. This If it was 0-2, it'd be a completely different story, right? You'd rush him back,
Yeah.
hope to get him into game three, hope he'd provide that spark, which he would. I feel like he can make up the difference of however many points they're down. But it's a big win. It's a big win for this Mavericks team, and I feel like, even it's weird to say this because the series is tied 1-1, right? But it almost feels like a nail in the coffin for the Jazz, because if they're losing
I
to a
know.
Mavericks team without Luca, like, how are you going to win against Luca? It's going to seem nearly impossible.
Yep. So again, I don't know if this is Jason Kidd's call, but this was definitely your call. So I want to give you props here. We talked about how many minutes Dwight Powell played in game one. Look at how many he played in game two. Just 16 minutes. And
No.
where did everything else come from? They went small ball with Maxi Kleba, who played 32 minutes, 25, 6, and 3. That could have been the difference of the entire second half because Rudy Gobert was not as efficient down the stretch. So props to you on calling that. And
Yeah.
hopefully they actually did that on purpose.
Yeah, hopefully they did, right? Hopefully it's just not a lucked in call, but yeah, it works out for them. This is one of the few teams, not few teams. I guess there's a couple of teams that can go small this year, but obviously Nuggets can't go small. There's a few other teams that just can't go small. But this is one of those teams that can go small. They can have that 6'9", 6'10" center in Maxi Kleber and kind of space out the floor, which works really well against Rudy Gobert, and we saw that last night. So this was a good one. Do we want to? I kind of want to talk about this. Donovan Mitchell and his ineffectiveness in the playoffs. I know he had a big game last night, right? Like, I know he ended up scoring. What did he end up scoring? I have this in front of me. He scored 34 points, had two rebounds, had five assists. Back on Saturday when these teams first faced off, he had another big game. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he had 32 points in that one. But both games, he's shooting like 10 for 29, and then the last game he shot 13 for 30. Like, that doesn't win you playoff games when you shoot 30 field goal attempts and can't make half of them.
It is strange, right? I think that at the end of the day, like they said that their secret weapon was giving Boyan more shots. I think that it has worked because he has put up big scoring numbers in both the first two games. But at the same time, I think that Donovan's still taking too many shots. And I think the most surprising thing here, I know that we praise him for his defense, but Mike Conley, 0 points in the
Yeah,
game.
man. He
Like,
looks bad
like
out there. You're getting to the point where Mike Conley's getting a little. I'm not going to say washed. I feel like that's mean, but I feel like you're getting to the point where Mike Conley might be a little bit older than he needs to be for this league at this point. So I don't know if he's the same different maker on this Jazz team. Give me the likelihood because you said this yesterday, and I think it was a good point. Um, what? Give me your percentage likelihood that this team ends up getting blown up in the offseason. This Jazz team.
I think it's 100%
Yeah.
because they won't make it past the second round after if they're struggling this bad right now. And if Luke is in this series is already over, in my
Yeah.
personal opinion. So
Yeah.
I do think that they've tried to make it work for what this is their third consecutive season where they've been around this range. It wasn't as good of a strong, wasn't as strong as of a regular season than it has been in the past, but somebody is moving on here, and I think that they do. I think that they have to make a choice, or they just send both Gobert and Donovan Mitchell to different places, and Mike Conley probably rides out and tries to maybe sign somewhere for a final season, or maybe he's done. But yeah, they have a lot of things to worry about, and I just don't know. They just have a really well constructed team to play in the regular season, and they don't have this whatever this is. I don't think it's a Quinn Snyder thing because I really respect what he does, but maybe it is, and they just have not been able to close second halves. This is like at least the fifth time this season that they haven't been able to do that, and that
No.
actually this one actually wasn't even the worst one. So
No.
I don't know. I think the chance of blowing it up is 100%. It's going to happen. Someone moves, and I think that I would hope, just for their sake, that it's not Mitchell. But I do think it will be at the end of the day.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. All right, let's move on to the last game of the night. Nuggets facing off against the Warriors in this one. Warriors with a dominant win here. Never looked like they were going to lose this game. 126 to 106. I mean, like the Warriors just look so good, and you had Jordan Poole come off the bench in this one, and you had Steph Curry play the starting role, and 34 points for Steph, 29 for Jordan Poole, 21 for Clay. That wins you basically any game that you are a part of. I mean, to have those three players not only score so much but shoot so well. I mean, Steph shot 12 for 17, Jordan Poole shot 10 for 16, Clay even shot 9 for 19. Like you look at all these guys they did amazing, and they kind of just end up doing the same exact thing that they did last game against the Nuggets, where they just take away those interior shots from Jokic and from the whole entire team in general, and did a great job of it. Jokic clearly got frustrated by it, got frustrated by not getting any of the calls, which he didn't get a lot of calls in this game, to be fair to him, but ends up almost coming after Gary Payton. Steph has to cool him off for a second. If no one has seen that clip on Twitter, you need to go look at it because it's pretty funny. Just little Steph. I mean, Steph Curry's not little, but this smaller person in Steph Curry trying to hold back this giant man in Jokic. As Jokic goes after an even smaller man in Gary Payton Jr. It was a lot of fun to watch. So I don't know. Jokic ends up getting ejected in this one. The game was out of hand, so it doesn't really matter. What do you think about this? Warriors are up 2-0 now. They go into Denver in game 3, but this series kind of feels like it's done and doesn't feel like there's much of a
Yep.
chance here.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I Denver unfortunately was on the bad luck side of getting this matchup, and with the Warriors' late slide to end the season, and that's just what it was. They don't match up well. The Warriors are able to take away what the Nuggets are best at, and that's just controlling Joker, and I don't think that there's a secondary scorer that I'm impressed with on this Denver Nuggets team. And it's been like that since Michael Porter and Jamal Murray have not been on this team. Like Jeff Green plays 23 minutes, gets 3 points. Aaron Gordon, who you signed to a massive deal for a game-changing role, 7 points in 25 minutes. I know that a lot of those guys didn't play the fourth quarter, but it still is something to look at. And like Will Barton, you're still playing him 31 minutes. He at least had a double double, but like the scoring numbers just didn't exist for anybody on this team.
Yeah.
And they're running very deep. So I'm not sure what the whole goal is here for this team at the end of the day. They'll probably recap at the end of the season saying like, we wish we had X player, we wish we had that player. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. You still have to grind no matter who gets hurt.
Hmm.
I want to talk about the fact that I didn't get to watch this game because I was watching Coors and the late night MLB games, and I was a little bit more invested in that. And I was just checking the score, and this was never something that I actually wanted to turn into. So all I did was look at the box score to see what Jordan Poole's stats were, and I was like, I smiled and I just put the phone down because
Yeah.
that's I think it's his like I don't know. I just think that it's his time. So
Yeah, it certainly feels like it, man.
yeah, so I wanted to just say that, and then I also just wanted to say like the title of this stream is the rivalry nobody asked for. So we have a few that could relate in here in the NBA. First one, Joker and Gary Payton. Nobody asked for that.
No.
There's no fun in that one. And then the other one was Nick Nurse and Joel Embiid going at it. Even though I just love like I don't know if you guys have any time to watch this, but there's video recaps of and then Joel Embiid spouting off in the press conference at the end of the game, telling Nurse to stop bullshitting, complaining about ref calls, because he we didn't talk about this, but he and OG got technicals early in the game, and
Hmm.
then there's just a bunch of drama around that, like Joel Embiid's being blamed for stepping on Scotty Barnes' foot and just like ruining their entire playoff run. Uh, but then the other rivalry, which I'll let you talk about because you just shared it with me, Demarcus Cousins. Just we're talking about the Denver game, so I figured I would
Oh
throw this in here.
yes, bro. Thank you.
Demarcus Cousins and George Karl.
I almost forgot about this, so I don't know where this came in. I don't know why Demarcus had this answer, but I guess someone asked him, like, "What has Sacramento done for you?" Or no, I forget what the exact question is, but Demarcus Cousin responds and says, like, "What has Sacramento done for me? You know, I went out there and performed and stuff, and blah blah blah." And George Carl responds to him on Twitter, which continues the conversation of why do we get Twitter for free anymore? Because it's just gold mined everywhere. George Carl responds in a quote tweet and says, "Well, they gave you $50 million and the chance to play basketball professionally for the rest of your life," and it's like, damn, like that's how George Carl came at it this morning. Certainly an interesting way to come at it, and something I did not expect to see, but it is something that we got, which is it's very interesting.
Yeah, apparently, in addition to that, there's just been a bunch of stuff about Cousins this morning because there at the end of the game was a fight between Cousins and Will Barton during this game, or at the very
Yep.
end of the game. So yeah, it's somebody on Twitter. I'm not going to quote it because it's nobody that's of importance. He just said Demarcus Cousins has achieved the rare accomplishment of never ever changing or growing in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean he's not wrong whatsoever. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about MLB and talk about that course game that you were just talking about because I know you turned it on and you were invested in it. We both were very invested in it. But man, what a snoozer for this Phillies team, man! Absolutely insane game because of how just nothing happened. Like we expect this Philly team to go off against Chad Cool. Chad Cool looked absolutely amazing and pitched pretty dominantly throughout. And then this Coors bullpen or this Rockies bullpen that I've shit on multiple times this year. We shit on basically all of last year, calling it the worst bullpen in all of baseball or one of the worst bullpens in all of baseball. Has kind of turned things around. I sent you a tweet. I don't know if you saw it over text, but I sent you a tweet last night that said this Rockies bullpen to start out the year has a 1.88 ERA, and that's through a expanded amount of time. That's through like I think 15 plus innings. So they've looked absolutely insane to start out the year, and we see that the Rockies were able to come out on top, which is very interesting that you give Nola, that Nola ends up getting the loss there, and that Phillies team in general gets the loss because it didn't feel like a spot that they were actually going to lose in.
Yeah, Nola pitched pretty well throughout, then gave up the solo home run to Charlie Blackmon. That kind of started to unravel his night. And we didn't even talk about the fact that Chad Cool, although he did go through six and only had two hits against him, left the game early with a. It could
Mm.
have gone further, but he had a blister in his hand, so he ended up sitting the rest of the game there. But I am maybe it's something that's just going to regress over time. But this Rockies team is 7-3, and they've faced the Dodgers, the Rangers, and now the Phillies after one
Yeah.
game. So it's been kind of impressive to see.
Been very impressive to see. And you want to talk about fun stats? Speaking of the first three series, Rangers, who have now committed $500 million to players over that offseason that they just had, have gone 0-3 in their first three series. They have not won a series yet, and it's the first time that they haven't won one of their first three series since the 1990s. So this Rangers team committing all that money. I mean, I know they've run into some bad matchups, right? But like the Rockies, I mean, depending on how good the Rockies actually are, who knows how actually bad of a matchup that is. They ran into the Angels, and then I don't know who else they ran into. I don't know who the other series is against, but it couldn't be anyone that difficult. It's not a spot where they should have lost, and I'm kind of floored that they did end up. Oh, it was the Blue Jays that they ran into for the first
Yeah.
series of the year. Regardless, though, just kind of shocking with this team. That Rangers team that is supposed to see so many improvements just hasn't seen that quite yet.
Yep, they will be getting the Mariners tonight, so that'll be a fun game to talk about.
Yeah.
But as far as the Rockies go, we're gonna keep seeing them in cores this week against the Phillies tonight. The matchup between the two of them is going to be, let's see here, it's going to be the it's Kyle Gibson versus Kyle Freeland, so battle of the Kyles should be probably a little bit what I don't know. Maybe we'll get the same kind of thing that we had last night, where it's going to be Kyle Freeland's 0-2 in his start with a 10 ERA heading into this one. So we'll see if he can turn it around today. Colorado's probably been one of the more impressive teams to start out as far as what we thought they would be. I also think that potentially Oakland's in that conversation as well. They're 6-5, and I just think it's I don't know, any other teams stick off the page to you in terms of what they've looked like the first year. There really hasn't been too many teams that have kind of like jumped out just because we've only played 10 games so far.
Yeah, I mean, the other team that does jump out is the Guardians. I know they're only 4-5, but oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I know the Guardians are only 4-5, but they have been looking pretty good so far to start out the year. They had a tough series against the Giants, so you're right. It's kind of tough to say they've stood out quite yet. Nets, we expected them to be this good. Giants, we expected them to be this good. Yeah, not much else really outside of just I'm impressed with what I've seen from the Rockies and very unimpressed about what I've seen from the Rangers.
Yep. I mean, I'm kind of a Rangers fan. I'm more of like a, I'm more of like a, I want to have things shape up and switch everything around in the AL West more than anything. So we'll see if those couple teams can get things together. Looking for, just because I was curious, I'm now on this page where I have all the stats for run differential. So I'll just give you the highs and the lows here.
Uh,
The the Mets are have the biggest, or sorry, the Dodgers have the biggest run differential. No shocker here. 30 runs or plus 30. The Mets are second with plus 26, and then the bottom teams, the worst team in the league is the Cincinnati Reds, minus 27, and then the Diamondbacks are minus 20. So I guess those make sense.
Hey, go Athletics. Plus 14. I think that goes for like the fourth highest run differential in the league at plus 14. So
There
good
you
for
go.
that good for that team. Toronto, I think is the most surprising one that I've seen so far as I look through this page. Toronto leading the AL East right now, -3 in the run differential though. So we'll have to see if that keeps up for them because I don't know. That definitely points to a little bit of luckiness at the end of the day, or clutch, whatever you want to say at the end of the day. But should be interesting to see how the MLB ends up throughout the season. All right, we have our dog days of spring, Jared. Let's get an underdog bet in and then get out of here because we have hit that 30-minute mark. You get to go up first. Who do you want to take?
Okay, I'm gonna try to not take cores because I don't think I even had that as an option last night. But I might try to go for a. Do I want to go with the basketball game here tonight? Yeah, why not? Let's go for this Memphis Minnesota game two. I think I'm gonna make an extra effort to try to tune into the whole thing because I think that we're gonna have this is like I don't know. I think I'm expecting a fight at this in this one. Maybe a
Yeah,
tussle.
yeah, I could
Let's
see it.
see.
I have my pick. It's coming from this game as well. I don't want you to take my pick.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Steven Adams, 16 and a half points and rebounds over.
All right. I can get behind it. I like it. After the whole Joss incident on Twitter, I think you saw it, him posting the clip from The Last Dance and him saying that he's taking notes and stuff. I think he comes out fired up for this matchup. And I think at the end of the day, that first matchup was just because of was just some unfortunate, I'm not going to say luck necessarily, but he's getting used to the game. He hasn't been playing for quite a while. I think he bounces back here and has just a humongous game against Minnesota. So over 47.35 fantasy points is what I'm taking for Mr. John Morant.
Okay, I like it. I want to just confirm that Steven Adams got in foul trouble last game, or something happened with him.
Yes, he did
Was
get in
that?
foul trouble. I did watch that game. He
That's
did
what
get in
I thought.
foul trouble.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, yep. I think that he's one of the most patient guys in the league, so I don't think that happens twice.
Yep, I can get behind it. All right, Jared, let's get out of here. Any final notes before we do?
No final thoughts, really. We do have an early only slate today, but we have to do a lot of content before that, so we'll talk to you guys here in a little bit.
Yeah, early only slate starts at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The 30 Lock Show will be at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then obviously main slate lock is at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to keep an eye out for all that content. We are about to go record the Don't Fade This podcast episode. That way, so you guys can get a first look at today's slate. Remember, you can go look that up on any podcasting platform, and you can find that podcast and you can get our early thoughts. But Jared, let's get out of here. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.